everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Limited Time Only. I'm your host, Spencer, and I am joined by my co-host, a man who lost the piece to his mic that makes him sound good, Danny Cathro.
I was definitely a part of what lost the piece to the mic. I won't take full responsibility, but it was part me.
Yeah. So if Danny sounds different today, it's because, he should.
Yeah, that happens. It can occur, but hopefully it still sounds okay.
You know who will never lose important pieces to equipment is our sponsors. You can check them out at the Mana Base and the Game Grid. You can check them out at the Mana Base for all of your amazing Magic content from, whether it's articles or videos from content creators like us, up-and-coming content creators that are trying to make a name for themselves. The Mana Base likes to support those kind of people. You can check them out at the Mana Base, and you can check out their sponsor, Fusion Gaming. You can also support Game Grid at play@gamegrid.com. See if there's a Game Grid near you. I played a PPTQ at Game Grid yesterday. It was amazing. I love going to Game Grid. You can love it too. Just check them out at play@gamegrid.com. We really appreciate the support of both of our sponsors. You can go to our sponsors page on constructivecriticism.com to see all of the sponsors and support them at the places that support us. So you can also support us directly by going to patreon.com/ccmtg to become a patron of this show and all of the content on constructive criticism. Every dollar donated is really appreciated. Starting at $1 more per month, anything you see fit can change our lives. If every listener of this show, our other show, all of our YouTube content donated just $1 a month, we could quit our jobs, do Magic full time. Not like Danny and Michael don't already do that, but I could do that if that happened. So
yeah, the majority of my time is definitely Magic. But that's a good thing. That's a good place to be.
It's part of being a pro Magic player, Danny.
Yeah. That makes sense. Checks out.
I asked Michael yesterday, I was like, do you get your sixth person for your team for Wizards? And he's like, I think so. I was like, who is it? He's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, aren't you going to test with them? He goes, I don't know.
Yeah, we haven't fully went super gung-ho yet. I mean, it kind of makes sense, though. I think the World Championship was a pretty big indicator of the formats. And so, I mean, I think prep from here to the Pro Tour would mean a lot more than prep before now. So
Sure. Well, let's go on to our first segment of the show, which is our biggest movers. I don't know if I gave the website. By the way, that's patreon.com/ccmtg to become a patron. But let's go to our biggest mover. So every week on the show, we talk about the cards that move the most for us in the given limited format. We're in Ixalan right now. We're a couple weeks in. Danny, what is your biggest mover up in this limited format?
So my biggest mover up, it's Depths of Desire. So in general, it's just cheap interaction. And I think Depths of Desire is the main card that exemplifies this. So it's the 3-mana bounce a creature, get a treasure. Yeah. And so the treasure part is it's good. I mean, it's not super critical, but it definitely helps the card be a lot better. But just mainly being able to interact with any creature for 3 mana is something that, at instant speed, is something that there's not too much of that in the format. And so I think Depths of Desire does something really unique. It's really good if you're aggressive. You can trade profitably with your removal. They play a 5-drop and you just bounce it and get in.
It's really good on the play because you see so many, whether it's the Spectral Flight or the Goblin Warpaint.
Yeah.
I'm literally
Swashbuckling.
Sorry. So it's Swashbuckling and what's the other one called?
Mark of the Vampire.
No. I'm talking about the blue one.
One with the Wind.
Yeah. I think Spectral Flight and Goblin Warpaint every time I see them. I don't even read the names.
Silly. Yeah, I mean, they are those cards.
That's what they do, but I probably should not think those cards. I should probably think their name as I do podcasts.
Yeah,
Mark of the Vampire is a good example, but if you're on the play, you get to interact with all of those things.
Mm-hmm. Well, and on the draw, you can take a hit from a 1 with the Wind and then kind of punish them.
And then get rid of it. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's not. I think that card's really good. I actually felt pretty justified at the World Championship. So Christian Calcano kind of exemplifies both of these, where in his first draft deck he had 4 Swashbucklings. He went 3-0. So in his 3-0 draft deck he had 4 Swashbucklings, and then in his second draft he first picked pack. I think it was pack 2 pick 1, but he first picked a Depths of Desire. I think it was pack 1 pick 1 Depths of Desire.
Yeah, I think that interact. It's funny because today we're going to be talking about removal and combat tricks, and as I'm playing this format more, I have a very different opinion than I did a week ago
Yeah.
And I think there's a ton of interaction in this format that I didn't realize that that's what the format is about, rather than the synergies. It's actually about your interaction.
Yeah. And how you plan
Yep.
according to the interaction that's in the set. I think that's
Yep.
like the biggest thing is like
Yeah.
altering your play with the new parameters that we have set
Yep.
with the interaction. But
So my biggest mover up is kind of crazy. People are gonna laugh, but my biggest mover up is Veraska.
she's completely busted. She's so
Like
good.
on the surface, I was like, she'll be fine. I entered my steel deck yesterday, and
Nice.
and outside of her, my deck was terrible. But like, so she comes down with 6 loyalty. She pluses to make a 2/2 to go to 8, pluses
Yeah.
again to go to 10, and then they die the next turn.
Yeah, there's just that one and need like 12 blockers to not die. So yeah, they're
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah, I
I
didn't
played her in
like.
standard. She's good in standard too. The exact same line that you talked about. Play her plus dead. Like
Yeah,
it
I
works
also
in
have played
standard.
her in standard. I just didn't correlate. Oh, okay. They just die in 3. She literally is a 3-turn clock.
Yeah.
That comes in with 8 loyalty essentially, and especially in something like limited, like 8 loyalty is a lot. I had opponents like look at her and be like, so if I attack all out, block, 3 of my guys dies, she goes to 4. Like what is happening?
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, a lot of people were asking me as I was playing her. They're like, oh, do you think she's the best rare in the set? Do you think she's the best rare in the set? How do you compare her to X? How do you compare her to Hostage Taker? How do you compare her to Sun, the red champion? Like what? And I'm like, well, I won every game I've cast her.
Yeah, she's pretty great. I mean, a 6-drop can be, and like, I could see her being punished in the format, but yeah, she's obviously insane.
Yeah.
But
well, let's go to my biggest mover down, which is another 6-drop. And you also have a 6-drop as your biggest mover down.
Yeah.
But my biggest mover down is Sun Crowned Hunters. So here's the thing. I really like Sun Crowned Hunters. I think that it's a good card. I think that even your aggressive decks can typically play it. My problem with it is that you either need to be green red specifically, or you need a lot of a specific uncommon to play it, which is the 2 mana that makes your dinosaurs cheaper, the optic
Otepec.
Otepec. Yeah, Otepec Huntmaster. And like that's asking a lot for you to play, you know, just a common in your deck.
Yeah, I think so. I also have a 6-drop as my biggest mover down, probably for similar reasons. So I have Colossal Dreadmaw, but I think it is the same concept where so a lot of the removal in this format is expensive and clunky.
Yes.
And you can build a deck where you don't reward their expensive and clunky removal, but instead you punish it. Like you play a low curve, and when they play their 5 mana removal spell, then you're at a mana advantage. But when you play like the dinosaurs, like the 6 mana dinosaurs, you're turning their unprofitable interaction into profitable interaction. And I think it's kind of a big deal. Like I had a blue-black deck where this happened. I think I mentioned it last week, where they played a Colossal Dreadmaw, and I had played the 5 mana blue-black uncommon, the Plungers, I think, and then they played a Dreadmaw, and then I just contract killing and attacked for like 7 or something, and they're just dead. And so I think it's just a liability at this point.
I think that you have to have ways to ramp out your dinosaurs in order to make your dinosaurs like really good. Because the 6 mana dinosaurs are really powerful, but you have to find a way to really make them better. I mean, both of these are a great example of this, right? Like a 6/6 trample for 6 can basically attack every turn in this format if it stays on the board. And this 5/4 that really punishes them because like they can't block really well, they can't block profitably. Like there is a lot of things that these dinosaurs do, but you have to get them out early. So your deck has to have the synergies. And I think we're kind of getting into the point of what our training grounds is about. Is this format's about breaking up interactions.
Yep, it's very true. I think, like you said, the 6-drops, they can be really powerful, but you just kind of have to take them. Like you have to note how you're going to build your deck around them. Like if you have a aggressive deck and you have a 6-drop in it, it's not as big of an issue because they'll burn a lot of their interaction and then your 6-drop will be a good finisher. But if your plan is just play a bunch of 6-drops and not ramp them out at all, you're going to be in a rough spot.
Well, let's move on to our color of the week. So every week on the show, we go deep into a color and talk about its, place in the format. This week, we're going to talk about blue. Let's start with the notable commons. Danny, what are the notable commons for you in blue?
So
talks a little bit about Depths of Desire.
Yeah, I definitely think that's one of them. Another notable uncommon is One with the Wind. I think it's kind of a defining
common, but yeah.
Common. What?
You said uncommon, but yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's a notable common. So One with the Wind is just great. Like it's part of the reason why there's so much emphasis on like how you interact on the set is just because it's 2 mana, make my guy really big and flying, so you can't block him profitably ever, and he's going to deal a lot of damage really fast. And so there's a lot like the Merfolk deck. That's part of the reason why the Merfolk deck is so good is just because One with the Wind can get a lot of damage in combination. Yeah, Jade Guardian, One with the Wind. That's like a key part of the format. And so you have to have a plan of how you're going to beat that, and it's either like racing it or playing Mark of the Vampire. I think that's part of the reason why Mark has gone up so much is because if you can mark something that's as big or bigger than a Jade Guardian, then you can punish them for attacking you.
Yeah. Two other big commons for me are Run Around and Shipwreck Looter. So Run Around.
Run Aground.
Run Aground. Thank you. Run Aground. So we talk about this on Constructed a lot, but I don't know that we've ever talked about it on Limited Time Only. But when you put a creature inside your opponent's deck and remove it from the battlefield and they have to draw it again, that's actually just removal. Obviously, they're drawing the card again, but you're still killing that creature, essentially. It's not like the creature's not gone and you didn't 1-for-1 them. A lot of people think that it's the same as bounce and you're at a card disadvantage. That's actually not true. The card is removed from play, removed from any zone but the deck or the graveyard. And it is basically removal in blue, which is one of the reasons that cards like Time Ever are so powerful.
Yeah, it's definitely removal. It is kind of like a weird type of removal. It kind of reminds me of like it doesn't get rid of the problem. It does trades for the problem, but I don't know if that makes sense. But
it kind of depends. That's a good point. Like, for example, like Condemn puts it on the bottom of the library, and people understand that as removal. But I think that they have an hard time understanding
when it's on top. Yeah,
when it's on top, that it is the same concept. It kind of just depends. And there's definitely so many times where you run around something and they can't just play it next turn. Like they have something else to play.
Yeah. Or we just talked about One with the Wind, Mark of the Vampire, Swashbuckling, like all, or if you do it in response to a combat trick. Like, and there's not a ton of instant speed and removal in this format. And Run Aground is actually one of the few ones where you are getting your card back, and it's instant speed and only costs 4 mana. And I think that's kind of what makes blue so interesting. I think blue is pretty good in this format just because it has the instant speed interaction that a lot of the other colors don't. Like, and it's for cheaper. So you get Depths of Desire at 3 mana, you get Run Aground at 4. Both of them are instant speed, can answer any threat. And so I think that helps blue be pretty strong. Like I've liked it in blue-green Merfolk a lot. I think that's the main spot, but it's also good in Pirates. You can build a blue-black or blue-red deck for sure.
Yeah, and then my last notable comment for me is Shipwreck Looter. I think that this card is a little bit underrated right now. It's the 2 mana 2/1 that when you have raid, if you attack with the creature, you get to loot. I think that this card is really important, and specifically in the Pirates deck.
Yeah.
Because go ahead. You agree?
Yeah, no, I agree. I do. I think 2-drops are pretty important, and this one's like pretty solid. I definitely like. In certain parts of the game, looting is a card. Like, there's lots of games in Limited where you flood out, and if you replace a land with a random card, it really is like drawing.
That's actually the reason, is because there's not mana sinks in this format. So, like, a late game loot is, like, the equivalent of, like, here's a 2/1 draw card in so many situations. I think the card is just better than it looks on the surface because it allows you to transform excess lands into effects the same way you would with a mana sink.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And I think that's part of the reason why, like blue is just solid, and like they're 3 drops. There's like 3 really good 3 drops. So like Sailor of Means is a good blocker if you're trying to kill them in the air, and then you have Siren Lookout, which is like probably one of the best explorer creatures, and you have Water Trap Weaver, and all 3 of those cards are really good. Like, I actively want those 3 drops in my decks most of the time, and yeah.
What are the notable uncommons for you right now?
So, I th- I think Stormfleet Aerialist is like one of the better uncommons. Just the 2 mana raid. It's a 2/3 flyer. If not, it's a 1/2 flyer. That card's great. I think a lot of the blue uncommons are definitely like role players. They're not like haymakers like in some of the other colors. It's
Yeah,
like
Perilous of Voyage and Air Elemental were two that I thought were like
really good.
yeah, like Perilous Voyage is like, I mean, it's a Disperse, right? And Disperse is just
It's great.
yeah,
Just like you like Depths of Desire, Perilous Voyage is better, and
yeah.
it plays out very similarly and is better.
And everybody knows about Air Elemental.
Yeah,
And also 4/4 flyers in this format are really big
they are. That's
because
for sure.
the flyers in this format are kind of tiny. I think that's one of the problems with blue white flyers is that they're kind of just little. Like even for flyers are typically little. They're even smaller in this format. So a good example of this is, one of your flying cards that you might have in your blue white flyers deck is like Siren Lookout, and that card is just tiny.
Yeah, like a 1/1, right? Yeah.
It's a 1/2, but yeah, it's really little. And Aeromental is huge, like a giant creature in the air, comparatively, and especially at its spot in the curve.
Yeah, Air Elemental is like flying is a way that lots of games end. You can get a lot of board states where it's just a bunch of 2 and 3 power guys running into each other, but not wanting to because it's unprofitable when you attack. And so a lot of games devolve into who has the biggest flyer. And Air Elemental is definitely the biggest flyer in the set. Most of the other ones are 3/3s, 3/4s. Like it trades again, or it beats the 3/4 reach from green. It is good, and you do have to be careful. It is like just like we talked about how the Suncrown Hunters and Colossal Dreadmaws are a little weak. I have had my defensive Air Elemental be punished, but you normally want to play it offensively anyway. Like you want to be kind of ahead and curving out with it, and then it's really strong.
So about the color pairs in blue, you have blue white, which we talked about a little bit. I don't think either of us are big fans of that. You've got
not really.
blue red, which can be a deck, but isn't as good as blue black. And then you've got blue green, which is the Merfolk version. So I think that we're both on we like blue black and blue green, but aren't a big fan of blue red and blue white.
Yep. I think there will be a Merfolk player or two at every table. Like I think Merfolk is really strong.
Yeah. And I think that Pirates is good. It is a good deck.
I think blue black is definitely solid. Like I don't know why blue black works out so much better than blue red. I was trying to think about it.
I think it's because you're fighting over the red removal with the other red drafters, right? So you can't get is it Fiery Cannonade? Is that the name of the
Fire Cannon Blast?
Fire Cannon Blast.
And then there's the Pirate Clasm that people are calling it, the uncommon. That one's actually I like that card a lot.
Yeah,
that's Fiery Cannonade. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that you're just fighting over stuff in that, whereas you kind of just get the black pirates and the blue pirates you want out of the other.
Yeah, I think blue black. You don't have to have as much synergy. You just it has really good cards, and so you just kind of draft your good cards. You can't. Sometimes you'll do like a flying evasive theme in blue black, and it works pretty well, but. You do also get Mark of the Vampire and One with Wind. You get to double up on the auras if you would like. But
what do you think of this color in Sealed?
So in Sealed, I've mostly seen the format devolve into play big dinosaurs and play Naya. But
yeah, I don't think a single blue deck made top 8 yesterday.
Yeah, I mean it seems pretty bad. I mean it's pretty. Which is weird. I think because the removal is not as good, unless you have like multiple One with Winds. I think that would be the only way that I could find myself playing sealed blue is like if somehow you open multiple Jade Guardians, multiple One with Wins. Like that's a really good way to win a game. And if your sealed pool isn't very good,
I
instead of
think
trying to play a bad dinosaurs deck, you could try to play that if you
I,
had those cards.
I think so often the problem comes down to like, why am I playing these like if you don't get the synergies that blue offers, right? Like we're talking about Jade
Hmm.
Guardian One with the Wind, and we're talking about Pirates. Like if you don't get those cards, then there's no reason for you to go into blue, right? Because
Yeah.
instead, it's very likely that I can build a solid deck with like a solid curve inside of green because green
Hmm.
offers me New Horizons to splash with. It offers me, ramp for my dinosaur creatures. So often, my dinosaur creatures are large. They usually make an immediate impact on the board. Uh, there's so many reasons not to go outside of green in this format that sealed and draft are just very different.
Yeah. I have had sealed decks where my splashing was actually stronger in blue or black because of
Yep.
treasures. So like I definitely think there is a world where you could play blue. Like if you opened really good single colored rares in like white and red and blue or like I could see something where you use all the treasures to splash and build a seal deck where you don't have the good green fixing and maybe your dinosaurs aren't that good, but like it's pretty rare. It's but when a seal format breaks down like that where dinosaurs are the best strategy, most decks are just going to be dinosaur decks, then if you have a bad dinosaur deck you need to be really cautious of just like falling into that strategy because you're going to be running into similar decks where yours just sucks and you don't want to do that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yesterday I had two losses in the PvDQ, one in sealed, one in draft.
Hmm.
The one in sealed was just to a better dino deck, like a
Yep.
significantly better dino deck.
Yeah. And especially when you go to a GP when you're going to be playing 7 to 9 rounds with your sealed deck, if you start winning, you're going to be playing some really good sealed decks, and you want to make sure that your deck has like a
Yeah.
solid win condition, like something that it does uniquely
Yeah.
or
My
more
opponent
powerful.
had five on color rares in his dino deck, and it was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
well, I'm
yeah,
just I'm just not beating this.
yeah.
And I think that, at that point, something that you might need to assess is like, do I need to side into a
Hmm.
different deck?
Yeah. I think that's a really
Because
big skill in sealed is
I'm not
is
beating.
coding it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to beat this person on this axis.
Yep.
So what axis can you beat them on?
Hmm. And
So
it's always hard to do that. You need to you have to prep before you sit down for that match. You can't realize that in the match and then be like, well, give me 5 minutes while I construct my white red aggro deck that I haven't thought about until now. Like and unsleeve everything, re-sleeve. Like you don't have enough time to do that in your 3 minutes of sideboarding. So if you're looking at your pool and that looks like it's a possibility, you need to make sure you prep between rounds.
cool. Let's go on to a training guys this week, which is combat tricks and removal of Ixalan, and kind of talk really quick about a few things. We want to talk about what's the kind of removal you're looking for in this set. What's the best role for combat tricks? The best tricks, what decks want them? And I'm just gonna read off the list uh, for the colors really quick.
Okay.
So white for combat tricks and removal has Slash of Talons, Legions, Judgment, Pious Interdiction, Ixalan Binding, Settled Wreckage. I put on this list.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, Bright Reprisal, Vampire Zeal, and Sheltering Light. I think that the main things in this are obviously Ixalan Binding's Pious Interdiction. I think
Mm-hmm.
Vampire Zeal is up there.
Yeah.
Um, and then obviously Settle the Wreckage. Blue has Entrancing Melody, Dive Down, Siren's Ruse, Perilous Voyage, Depths of Desire, and Run Aground. We've already kind of
Mm-hmm.
talked about blue on this one. Black has Skullduggery, which is huge
Yeah,
in
that
this
one's
format.
sweet. Yeah.
Vraska's Content, Contract Killing, Dark Nourishment, Vegas the Week. I think Vegas the Week, Contract Killing, and Skullduggery are the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
Red has Sure Strike, Dual Strike, Lightning Strike, Fiery Cannon, Repeating Barrage, and Unfriendly Fire. I think Unfriendly Fire, Fire Cannon Blast, Lightning Strike, and Sure Strike are the main ones there.
Mm-hmm.
Green has Pounce, Savage Stomp, Rivertail's Boon, Crash of the Ramparts, Blinding Fog, Snapping Sailback. I think Snapping Sailback, River Herald's Boon, Savage Stomp, and Pounce are the big ones there. And
Yeah.
like the fact that we named so many interactive spells in this format, I think was really lost early on.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did a lot of losing to swashbucklings and won with wins, and were like, "This format sucks. I hate this format. I can't interact." But they might have been passing on like situational cards that you just have to make work, right? Like I don't know how high people were on Depths of Desire, for example. Like that card doesn't look that great. A 3 mana bounce spell that makes a treasure is kind of meh. But in this format, it really overperforms because of how people are attacking the metagame. So
Yeah. So let's talk really quick. What is the kind of removal that you are looking for in this set?
so I do think you need hard removal. I think white's hard removal is the best. I think Pious Interdiction is like the best common removal spell just because it's 4 mana. Maybe it's Contract Killing. I don't know.
I don't think that's. Oh man, I still disagree. I think it's Fire Cannon Blast.
So my only like, so that does make a lot of sense. My only problem with Fire Cannon Blast is you can't. It's like one red is definitely harder to cast.
It is harder to cast.
I've had that. I don't know. I've had that come up a lot, and so it's definitely the best. It's the most powerful removal spell, I think.
Well, that's why it costs red.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you really. And sometimes it is awkward. Like the raid. So it's normally it plays like a 3 mana 3 damage a lot, which is okay.
Sometimes it does. One thing that it does do is it does a really good job of killing charging Monstosaur because they are usually attacking with it, which means that you can attack back and profitably kill it in red mirrors, which is really important.
Yeah. No, I think that card's really good. I think each color probably has like a couple good ones. Like Vanquish the Weak is actually great. Like that card's good.
Yeah, I've been impressed with that card. And Savage Stomp we've already talked about last week, but I mean,
yeah.
Like
I'm trying to
pay
focus on
that effect.
Yeah, and yet you can pay 1. I mean, I think Savage Stomp really is kind of a nod to how kind of slow the dinosaur decks are. So I think it actually is good for the format where it gives the dinosaur decks a way to kind of catch up on tempo. Yeah, and so it kind of makes sense why they would have put that in the set because it like in Merfolk, Savage Stomp isn't like a slam dunk. You love it because your creatures don't fight very well. I mean, you still play it because you just won with the win them and then you Savage Stomp it, but like it definitely is much better when on like turn 6 you play a 5 mana dinosaur and then Savage Stomp something. Yeah. And so
what role do combat tricks play in the format for you?
So I honestly think combat tricks are more critical in the set. So
Skullduggery and Sure Strike are
they're
actually
insane.
Both amazing.
Yeah. Even so this isn't too much of a combat trick, but it's like a 1 mana. So Dive Down is like really impressive. If you're in Merfolk and you just dive down a Contract Killing, they're just like they're so over. Yeah, the game is like it's done. And
you just traded 1 mana for 5.
Yeah, it's completely done. And that happens a lot. Or you can trade it for like Pious Interdiction, trade it like there are so many expensive removal spells that people are like slamming because they're like their interaction, right? And so
it's the same thing that we were talking about with Sure Strike last week, right? Where we're like,
exactly.
You just trade 2 mana for 6 mana, and it's so powerful. And it turns out that like Skullduggery, Vampire Zeal, Dive Down, like they all have that exact same effect on the game. Where what the game is really about is turning off the clunkiness of your opponent's deck and breaking up their synergies and creating your own synergies, and how all of that plays together is what this format is really about.
Yep.
And honestly, like, I didn't get that until this week. Like, just like you were saying earlier, like, man, to be fair, I still hate this sealed format. But the draft format is much, much better than I think that we realized initially because of these interactions and how the format actually breaks down.
Yeah, you have to – it's really weird. Like, it kind of makes you – you have to approach your limited knowledge a little differently, right? Like in general, you're like, okay, slam, removal spells, auras suck. Like I'm going to get 2 for 1. I'm going to be behind on cards. And when it goes late and both of us float out because it's limited, I'm going to lose because my aura got destroyed. So, but in this format, it doesn't work out like that. Like you have, like all of the removal's clunky in sorcery, or I mean, not all of it, but in general, the vast majority of the removal is sorcery speed, and expensive.
I mean,
And
there
yeah,
isn't even an instant speed 3-mana kill anything in this set.
yeah, like at common, there's like literally not like Depths of Desire. That's the reason why it's like good is because it's a 3-mana instant speed interactive spell. But like Lightning Strike, and I don't know, like there's some uncommons, but really everything is either expensive and or sorcery. And so you want to kind of approach the format in a way where you really punish that interaction because they have to play it. But
I actually think this has made cards like Snapping Sailback so much better because it's like you leave up so much mana all the time. Like, there's so many turns where you just leave up like 9 mana.
Yeah,
and there's like it's like he could have a Snapping Sailback.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's really it definitely does make a lot of sense. Or like Bright Reprisal. That one's got me. I just like, oh, instant speed kill anything. Yeah. I mean, you've left up 5 mana for like 3 turns consecutively, but I guess you drew a Bright Reprisal. That's good.
Because you just do. You have 9 mana on the board. You spend 3 of it on a creature, and you just end up with 6 mana open, and it happens a lot.
Yeah. It is really interesting how that turns up, but it's
true. Like it's true, right? Like Unfriendly Fire, Bright Reprisal. Like they made the format where these cards are not. You automatically know that your opponent has them, which is good for the cards, but it says a lot about the format, right? There's not mana sinks. Like there's not a ton of ways to get like really big amounts of card advantage, so you just end up with mana open.
Yeah, I did. So one thing that I have noticed about making your removal good in this format, and combat tricks, is so the best way to like make your cards work more for you is being ahead on board. So like all the combat tricks and just combat tricks in general are much better when you're ahead and your opponent has to kind of respond to try to catch up, right? So something like Sure Strike, we were talking about last week, where if you're really far ahead and they have to go for the double block, Sure Strike completely destroys them. Whereas if you're behind and you have to Sure Strike just to trade 1-for-1, it's good, but it's not as good. And you put yourself at risk to like, I don't know, maybe a Skullduggery, or if they have Unfriendly Fire and they can actually use it profitably then. And so I think that's why a lot of the decks that are having success are trying to be pretty aggressive, is because it makes your cards work more for you.
Yeah.
Like they go longer.
Think about how high you might be taking like Vampire Zeal, Sure Strike, and Skullduggery now compared to the beginning of the format, and that is very telling of what this format is about.
Yeah. Like Vampire Zeal, that card is in almost every set. Like white +2/+2 minor upside. That's in like tons and tons and tons of formats. And in this format, it overperforms. Like it's good. It's really good in this one. Yeah. And a lot of other formats is not that great. Yeah. So, yeah.
So I think that we've kind of, through this whole episode, encapsulated our thoughts and feelings about removal interaction today. And I hope that you take that with you into your next draft and try and understand what your plan is to interact with your opponent, break up their synergies, protect your synergies, and what is the plan when X or Y happens for you, and really think about that as you're drafting, because it's tough, right? I mean, Pounce is only good because it costs 2 mana. Like
it's just cheap instant speed interaction. It's just like we were talking about. Like if your deck is built to use Pounce, then it's one of the best removal spells in the whole set. Instant speed kills anything. Like it's really good.
Don't forget to check out our sponsors at Game Grid. You can check them out at Play@GameGrid. You can also check out the Mana Base and their sponsor at Fusion Gaming. You can find me on Twitter at Spencer13H. You can find Danny at DJ Cathro. You can find the podcast every week on constructivecriticism.com, mtgcast.com, here on YouTube. You can also support us directly by going to patreon.com/ccmtg, become a patron of the show. Any amount that you see fit is really appreciated. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. Leave a like, leave a comment, let us know what you think. We'd love to improve. This honestly has been my favorite episode of Limited Time Only ever. I felt like it was really fun, and I really enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
don't forget that you can tweet at us with hashtag What's the Pick. Hashtag What's the Pick is our Twitter outreach program. If you tweet it, we'll read it. I'm sure that they're all from me.
Let's see these.
As I'm trying to get this going again, but I thought I would throw some in here. So I think we start with October 1st with the one that Corbin posted from the for Corey Burkhart. But we see here we have Rootbound Crag, the Goblin Enchantment, Drover of the Mighty, Perilous Voyage, Ryle, the 3/4 Dinosaur, the 1/4 Pirate, New Horizons. What does the 3-mana 2/2 do?
The Water Trap Weaver?
Yeah, what does that
do?
do?
That one's great. So it's Frostlinks. So it's 2 blue, 2/2 Merfolk Wizard. When it enters, tap target creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap.
Got it. Thrash of Raptors, really bad black card. Dive Down, the 2/2 Lifelink Vampire, and Duress. Danny, what are you taking here?
So I think I'm definitely Drover of the Mighty.
I am just snapping off Drover.
Yeah. One interesting card in this pack that I haven't seen used too much, but I've heard people talk about it might being decent is Makeshift Munitions. Have you ever seen that card being played?
Yeah, and then my opponent lost.
Okay. So yeah, that makes sense.
Here's the thing about dinosaurs is that it's 2 uncommons, right? The Optech Topmaster and the Drover of the Mighty. If you open them, you should try and do it.
Yeah. They make the deck so much better. Drover of the Mighty in Limited is really good. It is a 2-mana 3/3 ramp spell in almost all situations. It does get punished by Skullduggery in very rare circumstances, but in the majority of the time, it's literally just going to be a 2-mana mana dork, which you like, and it's going to be a 3/3. It's pretty insane.
Next one is we are already green red dinos. Our choices are Deep Root Waters, Vicious Conquistador, River Sneak. Or that's not what that's called, is that?
River Sneak, yep.
Grazing Whiptail, March of the Drowned, Suncrown Hunters, Storm Sculptor, Ravenous Daggertooth, Legion's Judgment, and Skittering Heartstopper. So I took Grazing Whiptail, and here's the reason: is I think Grazing Whiptail is secretly one of the other most important cards for dinosaurs. I think that you have a really hard time with flyers, so you have to get interactions and Whiptails.
Yeah, Grazing Whiptail is really important for that deck. Just it's a little cheaper, so most of my successful dinosaur decks have had a lot of 3 and 4 mana dinosaurs, and not that many 6 and 7 mana dinosaurs, because the 1 mana 03 or the 2 mana 1/2, all of the mana acceleration, it becomes a lot more powerful when you're playing a 4-drop on turn 3 or a 5-drop on turn 4, whereas when you're playing a 7-drop on turn 6, but that's if you hit all 6 of your land drops. So whereas it's pretty hard for that to happen. Your ramp card has to not die, and you have to hit all of your land drops, and you have to have your 7-drop. Whereas you can just play a Grazing Whiptail on turn 3, and that's a really strong play, and you're going to be able to hold off the ground and get to the late game where you have this stuff.
Yeah, I think that a good way to look at this is the what is it? The 4-mana 5/5 that blocks multiple creatures. What is that card called?
It's the 4-mana 5/5. One more time.
The 5-mana 4/4. Sorry.
Okay, there you go.
The spike-tailed Ceratops.
Yeah.
Is the perfect example of this. This card is really good when you play it a turn early. Really, really good. Yep. But when you play it on curve, it's
pretty bad. Yeah.
And because of that, it's important for you to get the right cards that negate those problems, like the ramp things, or 3-drops and 4-drops that are really good on curve.
Yeah. So I think the reason why we're talking so much about playing everything a turn early is so the turn is huge. The reason why is because if your opponent is okay, 2-drop, 3-drop, if you on turn 4 don't play, if you're on your turn 3 and you don't play your 4-drop and you just play a 2/2, that sucks, right? Then they get to play a 4-drop, get in another attack, and then you play your big guy, and then they use their bounce spell or they use their removal spell, and they get in with their 4-drop, their 3-drop, and the 2-drop again. And so every turn that you're delayed, it lets them deploy a threat instead of answering your threat. And so like the 1-turn difference is really, really big because it's like a whole nother creature that you're going to be getting attacked with. And that's what, like, that's another reason why Water Trap Weaver in the other pack is so good, is because it lets you kind of deploy a threat and get in that turn. It's like, I think that card really overperforms in those decks a lot.
Cool. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Don't forget that you can tweet at us with #WhatThePick, and we'll talk about your pick on the next episode of Limited Time Only. See you guys all next week.